to Scoop City. I'm the athletic senior NFL insider, Dianna Russini.
And I'm Chase Daniel, former quarterback, husband, dad, now podcast host.
Both parents. I feel like that's our shared interest. But I look at it this way. I feel like we're bringing both sides of the NFL to the listeners here. I'm constantly covering it. I've been doing it for a long time. You've been in the league for what feels like ever, 14 years as a backup quarterback. And together we get to just talk about football.
I'm super excited about this. We have so many wonderful shows planned for you. And yeah, I just can't wait to get started. It's like we've been doing a lot of pilot episodes behind the scenes. We have a wonderful crew that's working literally full time to get this show off the ground. And we finally made it. You and I were talking on the phone earlier today. We're here. Let's get to work.
And I started to ask people that are also podcasters for advice. And everyone just says the same thing, which is just like, let it rip, which I hope that's what the plan is here, because I'm hoping to just let it rip on all the information. And I can't wait to really hear your thoughts, because that's what I love about this pairing is I can get the information. I'm constantly working on getting more to advance the story, but you've done it. I haven't done it. I've been on the sidelines my whole life. So the fact that you're just going to be my soundboard. You know, you're just a guy I can throw those ideas on and really pick your brain. And I hope the listeners feel the same way, because you're really good at translating. Like, hey, they're doing this. What are they really doing here? You know, and I'm hoping this show will give fans not just fun facts and good information, but will be able to just keep you abreast to everything that you have to know in the NFL.
Well, on the flip side, too, it's like I've lived it, right? Like I've been in the league 14 years. Now I'm doing this media thing. But I have so many interesting questions for you. That's what I would say I'm most excited about, because I'm living it. But as you know, it's not always what you think it is. So you're the insider, right, that tells us what it's really like. And so that's what I'm excited about, is like sort of breaking down your insider information, but also like what I'm thinking from a fan perspective, because I guess I'm still a fan. I am a fan of the game, but I also cover it in multiple different mediums. So I'm really excited. I'm going to ask you so many questions this year. You're probably going to get tired of me.
Lucky me. And I feel like you're just going to work me to death. No, I love it. I love when people ask me questions, because it happens all the time. You know, even when I drop off my two babies at daycare in the morning, it's parents in the parking lot that I can tell don't really want to bug me, but they want to ask me a question. And sometimes it's about fantasy. Sometimes it's just about their team. And, you know, I live in Jets Giants land, so it's usually about the quarterback. And I love hearing. I love sitting there and just getting into it. So I'm so glad now there's an outlet for me to just talk about the sport that I've covered for over 15 years now and that I love. And then I have you here to just help me with the football side to stuff that I don't get, on top of some parenting things, because I just feel like every time we talk about the parenting stuff, I'm the one with my hair on fire, and you're really calm about it. And you have 3 and I have 2. So I'm not really sure why your vibe is a little bit more cool than mine is.
My wife would disagree with you wholeheartedly about how calm I am when it comes to kids. I can talk a cool game and act cool in here, but man, we have almost 7-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 3-year-old, and it is very busy, as many parents know, in the summer here, because they're always in the house, and we've really enjoyed it. We just got back from a 3-week vacation. Training camp's right around the corner. School's still a month away here in California, so we're getting really good family time right now, but I would say I'm not as cool as you think.
It's all Hillary, Daniel. That's all it is. She runs the show.
100%. She runs this household.
I've learned that about you over the last few months. All right, Let's get to it. All right, so coming up on the show today, we're going to do a segment called In Your Mentions. And so what we're going to do week to week, we're just going to check out what people are talking about in our tweets, right? So it's a little bit of a rip off mean tweets if you were to read mine, right? Because if you go to mine, mine are so bizarre. It's like, show me a picture of your feet. You're ugly. You know, you stink. Your voice is annoying, which if you're listening and feel that way, please don't tweet me that. Oh, people are very bizarre. And I'm just tweeting news most of the time, which it's like, this isn't the place.
You're a news tweeter.
Although, you know, if times get tough, I may consider it. So, but with that, yours is,
don't.
You are so online, and it's something I learned. So we're going to get into that later on in the show and just talk about some of the things that you've been tweeting about lately. And just a few weeks ago, we took a visit to Kansas City to hang out with Super Bowl champ Andy Reid, a coach that you played for, and we talk all about how much longer he wants to do this. He's 66 years old. We talk all about Taylor Swift, the Swifties. We get into that, how this offense is going to evolve and get better. Because, look, you can make an argument they won because of that defense last year. So
100%.
I thought Andy joined the show in a version I've never seen before. I've seen him talk calmly and comfortably, but this was a different Andy. So I'm really excited to share that interview. So we're going to get to that coming up in just a few. And of course, we're going to begin the show with what I'm hearing. All right, so each episode, I'm going to lead off the show with news, information, notes, just things I'm hearing around the league. Because, geez, as you have figured out and learned, I'm on my phone all the time, and I love it because it's my job. But there are things being discussed constantly, things that people don't even know about. And I'm hoping this is going to be a place where I can basically dump all my text messages, dump all my conversations that I'm having with my sources, right? So it's like owners, GMs, coaches, players, agents, sometimes family members of players, sometimes family players of agents too. You never know where you're getting information. And I'm one of these, if you want to talk, call me. If you want to talk, text me. I'm usually open and willing to have that. So every week I want to be able to do this, and I want to have a place to share it. So with training camp coming up, let's get to this. Are there any teams or specific players that you're really interested in that you want to tap into what I'm hearing?
Well, there's a few. The first, without a doubt, is the Pittsburgh Steelers. Obviously, everyone knows what went on in the offseason with getting rid of Kenny Pickett. They go and sign Russell Wilson after a disastrous season in Denver. And oh, by the way, they trade for one of my favorite quarterbacks, Justin Fields. What are you hearing about that quarterback room dynamic with Arthur Smith at OC? Mike Tomlin seems to always win above 500. What is going on in that quarterback room?
Yeah, well, first let's just make it clear. Russell Wilson is the starter. It is going to be a competitive training camp, right? Justin Fields is there for a reason, but they want Russell Wilson, the veteran, the guy who knows how to do it, to be the starter coming out week one. And that is essentially what's going to happen. But you said Justin Fields. You said it like he's one of your favorite quarterbacks.
He is.
Why?
I love him. I love him. And if you just go purely on the film, based on last year, really he was playing at a really high level before he got hurt and then missed some games and then played at a really high level, which made Ryan Poles, the GM of Chicago, his entire process a lot more difficult than a lot of people probably thought by going and drafting Caleb Williams, trading Justin Fields. He ultimately traded Justin. And the funny thing about this quarterback room is that Justin's making more money than Russell Wilson this year. Pittsburgh's paying Russell Wilson like $1.25 million. They're paying Justin Fields like $4.5 million.
Yeah.
So I got to imagine that there's going to be some packages for Justin Fields on the actual field, whether it's a run game, whether it's coming in red zone situations where everyone needs a running quarterback. I just thought he really played well down the stretch, and I was very, very loud about it on all my social media last year. I know Chicago people loved it. I just don't get why they're just handing the keys to the car to Russell Wilson after that disastrous stint with Sean Payton in Denver. I know they didn't get along at all either. What are you hearing about that sort of what led to him getting to Pittsburgh?
Yeah, there's so many layers to this right now. So let's just start with just the idea that Arthur Smith, the now offensive coordinator, the former head coach of the Atlanta Falcons, former offensive coordinator of the Tennessee Titans, who coached Marcus Mariota and Ryan Tannehill, and you saw what kind of offense that they had there, right? It was a run game first, right? The run game was the most important aspect. He's not afraid to run his quarterback either, which fits perfectly for a Russell Wilson and a Justin Fields, right? So we'll start with the idea of having Justin Fields having some packages for him in this offense. 100% that is the plan. They've already worked on it. It's in the playbook. So you're going to see that in an Arthur Smith offense, and defensive coordinators around the league are all prepared for that. That is not news to them at all. As for Russell Wilson, look, this was a swing that the Pittsburgh Steelers were willing to make because of what Russell Wilson was at one point in Seattle. And they believe a lot of this roster in Pittsburgh reflects or at least mirrors what we saw in Seattle. A good run game, a good defense, a stud receiver. So if they could get a percentage of that, right? Maybe not 100 because he's getting older. If they could just get some of that, it's going to be successful there, right? And if they can just protect him, that's going to be the other factor in all of this. And Justin Fields, going back to when Chicago was trying to move him, Chase, that was one of the hardest stories to chase, literally, because we thought initially his market would be really strong. Remember?
Way better.
I remember headed to the combine, and that was my number one mission. Find out the team that wanted him. And I left Indy with no answers. I couldn't even get
why
gossip.
Though? What I think on the field he's a top 20 quarterback in the NFL.
I don't think a lot of decision makers in the NFL feel the same way you do. This is a win for Pittsburgh if he's the player that you believe him to be. Those snippets that we saw in Chicago, this is a grand slam for Pittsburgh. It's a grand slam if Russell Wilson develops, or not develops, but goes back in time a bit here. And look, his time in Denver was obviously not good with Nathaniel Hackett. Sean Payton was brought in to make him better. Sean Payton was brought in to tap into the Russell that Pittsburgh wants to tap into. And Sean Payton failed. And Russell Wilson failed. And them moving on was without a doubt expensive, but the best thing for both for both sides. Because here's the problem. You have egos in the NFL. Chase, you know this. You've been in rooms with people. You played for Sean Payton. You know the type of offense that he requires and the type of understanding of what he wants. He's very particular. He's so particular that he used to be in touch with the Superdome's operators, so the people that ran it, to discuss how much smoke would come out when the players' names were called in New Orleans. Who cares? He cares, because to him, it's all about the details.
Yeah, there's no doubt. It is all about the details for him. And there were times in New Orleans where he would get on during a game and say, stop talking while Drew's in the huddle to the PA people. He thinks of everything. I just don't think their personalities mesh. Look, at the end of the day, it's a fascinating situation. That's why it was number one on my list to ask you, because I think eventually, probably sooner rather than later, Justin will see the field much more than packages. All right, Dianna, next team I can't wait to watch is the Houston Texans. I absolutely loved watching CJ Stroud on film last year. Thought he was really dynamic as a rookie. Then they go out and they add Stephon Diggs, who, by the way, you broke the trade from Buffalo to Houston. I just love what they're doing in that organization. DeMeco Ryans comes in, former players as head coaches. I absolutely love it. What are you hearing on the vibes in that Houston locker room right now?
The Houston Texans are all in to win the Super Bowl. They know this is their window, right? So they luck out with CJ Stroud. They go through the rookie season that they just went through. They have so much success. They're able to do things that they didn't even know they were going to be able to do with the rookie quarterback last year. They obviously have him on this contract that allows them to build what they just did, starting with their general manager, Nick Caserio, building up this team, knowing this is the window, and you have to give even ownership credit here for allowing Caserio to cook over these years, right? This is his third head coach. Those 4 lost seasons, I don't even remember them now, right? After now that we saw what the Houston Texans did and who they're going to be now. And, there is a lot of attention on them. You see a lot of people picking them to win the Super Bowl. But I can tell you from just having conversations with people part of that organization, they're trying to keep it very quiet. They're trying to make sure that what they did last year isn't just an aberration. This is something that can be replicated and built on for years to come. So what does that mean? Limiting the distractions, cutting back on some of the media, making sure they're not the Jets of last summer. Remember that? It was like, they got to win the Super Bowl. They're all over Hard Knocks. They're everywhere. The Texans are trying to hush it all right now because they know what it comes with.
And with CJ Stroud, just from a pure throwing standpoint, he makes that entire team go. He's one of the best throwers in mechanics, mechanic-wise, that I have really seen. I was at family camp, which is an organization that we went to called Professional Athletes Outreach, and I was with a lot of former starting quarterbacks. It's just a bunch of Texas guys. Ben Roethlisberger was there, Colt McCoy, Nick Foles, Case Keenum, who's the backup there. And in the first, literally, Case and I go way back. The very first question, we both get off our cars. We're like, hey, what's up, bro? My first question, I said, dude, tell me about CJ Stroud, because not a lot of people know about it. And he said, verbatim, he said, he has the chance to be one of, if not the best quarterbacks of all time. And I was sort of just like taken aback. Yeah, all time. And I said, wow, because I can, look, I'm not crowning the guy, but like I can see what he meant. And Case is a very straight shooter. He's played for a lot of different teams. But when he said that, my eyes like sort of lit up. I sort of got goosebumps because I'm like, I love watching film. I love breaking down quarterbacks, and I can see what he meant. If CJ Stroud can take that next step this coming year, like they're gonna be tough to beat, honestly.
Speaking of Case, I remember right before the trade deadline last year, I was like poking around, like knowing that there were teams that wanted to bring Case on, and Houston was like, shut the door. Like, nope, we need him. He's the perfect vet to be in this quarterback room to assist CJ Stroud. And as the season went on, I would check in, like, what's that dynamic like between Case and CJ? All I would hear is like, yeah, CJ needs Case, but not really. He's kind of outgrown him now. Like, you know what I mean? Like, Case is there to break glass, you know, for emergency. Obviously, if CJ, God forbid, were to get injured. But what a fantastic pairing, which is why, you know, look, I understand why everyone is picking them. And they sort of have that New England energy about them of years past, where they're just going to kind of keep their heads down and grind it out and try to build something and try to replicate what we've seen those successful teams like the Chiefs and the Patriots do over the past few seasons.
Yeah, and look, I've said it before we move on to the next topic, which is the New York Jets, which just so get ready for that. But
can't wait.
I've always said it takes one person to turn around an entire franchise. Last year, Houston got two. DeMeco Ryans and CJ Stroud, sky-high expectations. Can't wait to see what they do. But yeah, so let's get to the New York Jets. It's your territory. You know all about them. Rodgers went to Egypt. He's back. They made a ton of personnel moves, not really so on the coaching staff side, but can Robert Saleh finally get this team over the hump with all the outside distractions? What are you hearing?
I know. So you got to figure, we haven't heard Robert Saleh talking about Aaron Rodgers since that very awkward, bizarre, weird, strange, forced press conference when he was asked about where's, you know, Aaron Rodgers, and he said it was an unexcused absence, which then made everyone crazy and became another distraction this offseason when it could have easily been put to bed. A veteran head coach would have either changed the mandatory camp to the week before. You know, there's ways around it. He's your starting quarterback. He's your guy. You make it work so he can be there. Aaron Rodgers told the New York Jets he was going to Egypt months ago. They knew this. So the fact that it wasn't worked out just seems really strange to me. It's their decision, obviously. And I was told that Aaron was told from the organization that it was Robert Saleh's decision to do that because he wanted to show everybody that he's not the GM. Because
So what was Rodgers' reaction? I mean, so they literally talked about it, and then Robert Saleh decided on his own doing that he's going to come out and make it an even bigger distraction.
So he went back to Saleh. Rodgers was like, "What the hell? Like, why would you not say it's excused?"
Oh, come on.
So the ball was dropped on the entire situation. So I am interested and I was told that it's been ironed out and everyone's great now, and they're going to start camp on the same page. But in a season where Robert Saleh obviously has to win, that's all that matters. Robert Saleh can grow his hair out if he could, and look like a stud, and it won't matter if they don't get any W's. You know what I mean? But
totally.
At the same time, this just doesn't help him because you know, I believe Robert Saleh wants to be better. He wants to improve. I think he regrets a lot of the things he did last year in terms of sharing information, trusting the wrong people. It happens. But here was just another fail that just could have been avoided. So here we are now. The pressure is on Saleh and Joe Douglas. Aaron Rodgers is coming off this Achilles injury. He'll be 41 in December. He's just going to go out there and do what he needs to do. He's already a Hall of Fame quarterback. I think this will just be the cherry on top if he's able to have some success.
And I don't necessarily think he is a distraction to the success that they're going to have on the field. It's just all the off-field stuff that you got to look at from a younger player's perspective. He's going to be 41, like you were saying. And you're seeing Aaron Rodgers as RFK Jr.'s possible running mate. You're seeing Aaron Rodgers skipping minicamp, which is not that big of a deal, but to go to Egypt. You're seeing all this stuff. It just gives me pause a little bit as a player to be like, okay, is he all in? Is he not? Look, he's all in. He played 4 plays last year. I just want to see him go out there and do it. He hadn't done it at a really high level in like 3 years, Dianna. Like, that's what I'm looking for. And speaking of at a high level, like Nathaniel Hackett back in the saddle for the offensive coordinator. And look, I think that's a smart move because Aaron only played 4 snaps. They haven't got to work together in a year and a half. But you're hearing something else about maybe what went on in that offensive coordinator search?
Yeah,
right?
there's a level of comfort there. That's why Nathaniel Hackett is there. They have a really strong relationship. Think back to when Aaron Rodgers would stand in front of the podium and talk about Nathaniel Hackett. It was like he was talking about his brother. There's so much loyalty and love there. And obviously an understanding, because at the end of the day, Nathaniel Hackett's calling the plays, but Aaron Rodgers has very, very strong influence. But I think it was quite apparent that there weren't a lot of answers once Aaron Rodgers went down on offense. They really struggled, specifically in the red zone last year. And there's a lot of reasons, but Nathaniel Hackett appears to have lost his fastball. So the Jets went out this offseason and just started to poke around, make some phone calls. Arthur Smith, the current Pittsburgh Steelers offensive coordinator, was one of those coaches that the Jets were talking to about possibly bringing in to be part of the play calling process here with Aaron Rodgers. And Aaron Rodgers was informed of it. He was aware of it. And in the end, he wound up going to Pittsburgh. But my question for you, do you think that Arthur Smith becoming a play caller for the New York Jets with Aaron Rodgers is an immediate upgrade than Nathaniel Hackett?
No, I don't. But that's just crazy to me that, you pretty much put it as like, if Arthur Smith would have said yes, he would have got the job. But I don't think it's an immediate upgrade because Nathaniel Hackett will do, I mean, let's be real. Aaron Rodgers is the offensive coordinator there. No offense to Nathaniel Hackett, right?
Yeah,
like Hackett's going to be on the same page.
Yeah.
He knows that. But when you get Arthur Smith there, it's an outside guy. Him and Rodgers don't have a really like tight relationship like Nathaniel Hackett. There's a lot of run game. Look, if the Jets are going to win this year, it's going to be on Aaron Rodgers' right arm. Let's be real about that. I just don't know if the pass game concepts that Arthur Smith brings would be like Nathaniel Hackett. So I get why they ended up making that move, but it's just an interesting nugget you just dropped.
Yeah, I think just the fact that they were exploring, I give the Jets a lot of credit for going, okay, yes, this is what Aaron wants, but maybe this isn't best. Maybe we can add another piece to this offense with another brain, essentially, from somebody who understands a run game and maybe could improve that area, because that's just really not as great as it could be, especially with that roster.
Love that. Yeah. What a Russini bomb from you. Amazing.
Here's the thing. It's like Woj has a Woj bomb. I don't have one. It's just like,
yes, you do.
You can't give yourself a name. That's so corny. I
give it to
Russini
you.
Bomb. Do something better. You're more creative.
Die
You're
bomb.
a backup quarterback. You're brilliant. Give me something.
Can
you work on it for the next episode?
We'll think about it.
Maybe this.
Yeah, we'll think about it.
If you're listening to this podcast, and if you are, thank you so much for tuning into the first episode of Scoop City. I hope you return for the second. Tweet me, DM me, whatever you want to do. Let me know what I should call a news break. It could be anything.
Ooh,
make it juicy, though.
Yes.
Something scoopy. Oh, whoa.
Maybe we'll have the winner on for a fan segment.
Ooh, you're smart. Come on the show.
Just saying.
That's how desperate we are for smart guests, because we're two momos. So yeah, look, to put a bow on the New York Jets, here's what I do love about them. If Aaron continues to sort of stay quiet during training camp, which I think he will. I think that is going to be the move. Despite the fact that the Jets constantly tell me they don't care that Aaron talks so much, that he goes on the Pat McAfee, that he does all that, I have a feeling they're going to be cutting back on that this fall, and I think that just helps them.
You know, he can always come on our podcast.
Oh, yeah. Aaron, come on. I know how much you like me. Let's get to our first guest, and why not start with perhaps the best coach in the NFL, Andy Reid.
Yeah.
Chase, you and I flew out to Kansas City with our Scoop City team. We hung out with the Chiefs for pretty much a very full packed 24 hours. We spent the entire day around them, and we had a chance to talk to Andy about all the topics, from Taylor Swift to Patrick Mahomes. His whole vibe was so just jolly, you know? Like, everyone around the league says to me he's Belichick, just a little happier. You know, he's actually way more of a disciplinarian than you think, and he's tougher, and you would know. But every time I've interacted with him, he's always thrilled. But then again, I'm always around him when he's winning, so I'm sure he's a peach. And
he becomes the highest paid head coach in NFL history too. So.
Doesn't that help when you sign a new deal?
But you're talking about disciplinarian. I have the craziest story about him before we get to the interview, and I totally agree. It's the only time in the history of me playing with Coach Reid that he really ripped me a new one. Like, I was a little bit scared. We were at training camp in 2014, and we're doing these 2-minute meetings a day before a game. And it's everyone in the room, offense, and Alex Smith wasn't playing that game, so I was starting, and I was going to play the whole first half. And usually, you know, Alex would get up and go over 2-minute drills and signals and what I'm thinking and what we're thinking. And so I sort of just it was my second year. I felt really comfortable with him. And I sort of after he's done talking, he's like, all right, and I just sort of get up and start rolling through. Hey, look, receiver, if this happens on that, I'm going to give you a C for this signal to go out, and just going through the whole thing. And he doesn't say anything at all. And I'm like, okay, good. I feel really, really comfortable about our 2-minute plan. Well, we break up into individual meeting rooms, and I go into our meeting room. It's me, Alex Smith, Tyler, Bray, Aaron Murray, Doug Peterson, Matt Nagy. They were all in our room, and this is 2014. And Andy comes in, opens the door as fast as humanly possible, and everyone in the room just what? He starts ripping me a new one for getting up. He's like, the team's not bigger than you. I can't believe you did that. You shouldn't have gone over my head to the team. I didn't want you to do that. Yeah, you're playing, but just learn. It was very short, although it felt like forever.
I'm sure.
And everyone, including Doug Peterson, Matt Nagy, everyone looked at me, and I looked at them, and I'm like, what did I do? He walked out. And I'm scared that I'm going to get cut. I really, really just, and I get what he was saying, but I remember calling Doug Peterson on my way home. It was an off day the next day. And I said, Doug, what did I do? Did I hurt his feelings? Did I do something wrong? He's like, look, I just think that he just didn't like the way you got up and just sort of took it over a little. I said, I totally get it. Let me call Andy. Called him, apologized. And all Andy said on the phone to me is dude, you're good. Just don't do it again. Bye. I was like, oh my gosh. So it was wild. It was a crazy story. It reminds me
of one of those stories of when you're young and you get in trouble and you're so afraid of your parents yelling at you that you'd almost rather just be hit, right? Just hit me. I don't want to get yelled at. Even though it's quick and short, respect. Right? But yes. When I say that he's the jolly Belichick, that doesn't, you don't disagree with that, right? In terms of
no, not at all.
Because I do think the perception from fans is, the burgers and the Hawaiian shirt, which we talked to him about. But when it comes down to it, you don't win at the level he does and get the respect that he does without being a certain way behind the scenes. So let's get to it. Here is our chat with Andy Reid. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. Yeah, likewise.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
Ready to get out of here or what?
Yeah.
Driving in for me and Dianna, especially for me, you guys are full-on dynasty mode, in my opinion. No, you don't like to talk about it a lot, but what has changed?
I think the urgency level's still up. It's probably presented differently. I think that's still there. The guys are hungry. I think you have so many more players that are coming back, that have been here and coming back. That they kind of take that, and rather than me have to do all of the encouraging for the competition, they're doing it. And, whether it's Pat or Travis or who's been here the whole time, Travis, Chris Jones, Bolden, these guys, they present a challenge for each other. And I think it's healthy. It's good but it's different than when I first got here and you first got here.
Since you don't have to put so much effort into instilling the fundamentals of what you want this to be because you've got these team leaders, what are you putting all your effort into now at this point in your career?
Being a player is like being a farmer, the worst never done. And likewise with coaches, but you can always work fundamental techniques. And I think that's probably where most of the effort goes. And then try to give them new things to keep their minds active and where they don't get bored with the same old plays over and over again. Try to find new things. Great players. I was around Reggie White early in my NFL career and Brett Favre. And they were great players, arguably two of the best to play the game. And all they wanted from a coach's standpoint, give me one more thing that even helps me be greater than what I already am. Yeah. So as a coach, you go, all right, I'm going to go find that nugget and try to give it to him. Now, it doesn't just have to be Reggie. And he knows. I try to stand right behind the quarterbacks, and I still do that, and just make sure that we're right. And I think they appreciate that. So that's kind of where my effort goes.
Where are you getting this from?
I've got great coaches that help grab things from different places. And if I have an idea, I'll throw it in there along with them. And listen, we get it from anywhere. We'll take it from high school. I've taken it from a janitor. I've wherever,
that janitor story's
whoever
awesome.
And whatever.
Yeah.
Man, I'm gonna take players that'll come up with some great stuff. This guy here was unbelievable with stuff. So, you come up with great stuff, we'll sneak it in and go. He should have been a coach, but I know he's big time now.
Oh, come on.
Big podcaster now.
Yeah.
We talk a lot about, and I've talked a lot about them, and they couldn't believe this, but like your team meetings are 5 minutes long. And the longest meeting you have of the year is that training camp meeting, which you're going to get ready to go down. Why the 5-minute meetings?
Well, you get to year 10 and 12 and where we're sitting here now. So you don't want the players to go, man, I heard the same thing over and over. I'd rather just get in, get out, give them what they need. I couldn't stand meetings when I was playing. The long meetings would drive me crazy. So I said, if I ever have an opportunity to be a head coach, it's going to be short. It's going to be sweet, to the point. And that's kind of how we've kept it. You know what you get, though? You mentioned about players, helping players. You can compete and win if the coach is teaching the player. You get the players teaching the players, and now you can really go and compete for championships. So that's where our guys are right now.
You talk about the grind. Well, I'm talking about the grind of the NFL season, right? You guys have been to so many straight AFC championship games, won your third Super Bowl. I mean, that's a season and a half of extra games, wear and tear. And, Travis at the beginning of the year was a little bit banged up. He got healthy down the stretch, had an amazing Super Bowl. How do you handle that?
I enjoy doing what I do. I think the coaches do. But when given an opportunity to get away, let's get away. I give them a little bit of time off after the Super Bowl. And then there's another little break in there for spring break where they can take their kids and go someplace. And I encourage them, get out of this building and go. And then I'm able to hang with Veach and we do the personnel stuff. I mean, if he needs a coach around, I can be the coach that starts off the free agency. The other guys can get out of here, and try to enjoy their families.
Chase brought up Travis's year last year, and we obviously all know he's managing so much, and there's been so much attention on him. Even for you, you've never coached a player to get this much attention worldly, around the world. How have you been managing that, knowing that everyone's got all their eyes on your star player?
Yeah, well, I think it's great for him. He can handle it. As a matter of fact, I think he probably loves it to a point. I think there's a great escape for him. I said that about Taylor too. I mean, she comes to the game, she can kind of escape having to be the show, and Travis can do that. And when he goes to her concerts, she's the star, and he can be hanging out there and be the support of the water boy, so he can do that.
But just for you though, seeing this, like what was that like from your perspective?
Yeah.
Because everyone was looking at this like, this is bonkers.
Yeah. No, I think it depends on the people involved, I think. So she gets all that, and he's kind of grown into it. That podcast of theirs, is ridiculous. So he's gotten a lot of notoriety for that. And he's an outgoing guy. I mean, he comes into a room, he's going to light the room up. And everybody's his best friend. Until you prove him wrong, everybody's a friend. And so he can handle it. You know, it's not something that he hasn't been given that he can't handle.
Here's the one thing, though, that Chase has shared with me, and I know this from just talking to guys around the league. As kind and gentle as you come across, you run a tight ship around here. That being said, you guys are the most popular team in the NFL right now, and your guys have gone a little Hollywood, and I say that as a compliment because they've had so much success. Naturally, I would think you don't love it because that's just not sort of where you come from, the space that you were built or you built everything around. How are you handling all of this, knowing that the guys are a little different than they were, let's say, 10 years ago?
Yeah, I'm okay with it. I grew up in Hollywood, so I mean, I'm okay with it. You know, the guys, as long as they're ready to go.
Yeah.
And so training camp is kind of that proving ground. If you're not ready to go, it's going to be obvious quickly. And just from whether it's a conditioning test or the long drive drills that we do, I mean, those things are you're going to find out who's in and who's not in, and who's put their time to get in. So, and then hard work has a tendency. You're not worried about being Super Bowl champs or anything. You're worried about getting through that moment, and it builds something in you. You know, that's the nitty gritty, as you'd say, of it all. It brings you right back it grounds you, brings you right back to earth there.
The Falcons drafted Michael Penix Jr. this year. They signed Kirk Cousins, $100 million guaranteed. Alex was here when you guys drafted Patrick Mahomes, and you guys jumped in front of Sean Payton and the New Orleans Saints. I was there with the Saints, and it was very well talked about, like they were going to take them. Give a little insight into that relationship and how much Alex played a part within Patrick's routine and going from day to day, and how he's really been able to be the player he is today, because I think that's fascinating.
Yeah, sure. Well, you know, I never asked Alex to be his mentor. That's not where it went. It was Alex just doing it because he's a good dude. Yeah. So he took it. Yeah, he took it from there. But I told him, just go have the best year you've ever had. Don't worry about anything else. And he ended up having his best year. At the same time, he let Pat into his world. So he let him into that training, his diet, his study habits, being a family man. They'd go out to dinner, wife would go, and then he'd meet the kids and see how Alex handled the kids. I thought he was a great example for how to be a professional football player for him.
Yeah, and I think, too, as you can tell, I mean, 15 or 16 of NFL's starters have gone down this year. I know you guys and Veach and yourself really prioritized the backup when Patrick was going to be starting. He went from 0 touchdowns to 50 touchdowns in his first year. But that backup starter relationship was very big for you when I was in the building with Alex. How did you guys decide on a guy like Chad Henne, who ended up being here and being one of the best things, in my opinion, that's really shaped Patrick's career?
Yeah, well, he won games too for us on top of all that. But he was great with Patrick. I mean, he was older, and he knew that he was coming down towards the end of his career. He understood the role. He'd be another one that would be a great coach if he chose to go that direction. He was honest. He was an honest guy. Yeah. So you get a guy that's throwing 50 touchdowns in a season, you can pat him on the back, tell him how great he is. You know, Chad's going to tell him, hey, that was a great job. But on this play, you stunk, and this is what you've got to do. So he was a great sounding board for Patrick, I think.
The players have been really bold about the three-peat. I remember walking off the field in Vegas with Travis, and, we did the typical, what's going through your mind? How you feeling? He said, we're going for 3, baby. I'm like, three what? What are you talking about? It still hadn't even registered to me that you just won and you're already thinking about the next. So your players, Patrick, obviously all your leaders have been really bold about this being the goal. They're putting it out there. How do you feel about putting out, hey, everyone, we're going for 3?
Yeah, I don't think it's not healthy. I mean, it's a nice goal to put out there. It's hard to get 1.
Yeah.
And so these guys have busted their tail to get 1. They busted their tail to get 2. And so the bottom line is, again, I come back to that training camp thing that grounds you. you have to do this, this, and this to even think about getting to there. And so they've got to go through the process, and I can take care of that part. And if they keep thinking that we're going to do great things, more power to them.
I know I shared with you privately that I came across a great parenting video about managing emotions in my toddler as I'm trying to deal with my kids. They're 2 and 1. I'm not sure if I'm great at this, but I'm trying hard and I'm trying to learn and get better. And the example that I saw in this from this therapist was how you managed Travis in the Super Bowl when the emotions were at the highest. And the therapist's point was you did the right thing. You walked away because you understood what was happening in the moment. From your perspective, what was going through your mind? And did you purposely walk away?
Yeah, well, he and I have a unique relationship. So it's, that's not the time and the place. When he was upset that I took him out of the game. So, I mean, but he had a good fourth quarter. So I could come back to him. I knew he was gonna have a good fourth quarter. So I could come back to him later and go, yeah, you played pretty good that second half.
You made a good point.
Yeah, but I mean, I love his enthusiasm. I love the want to be in there. I understand how he's wired, and I've had my moments where I've gotten after him, and so I get it. I mean, I get it. I've 5 kids and 13 grandkids. I kind of get that thing and how it goes. Now, he caught me off balance. That wasn't a good thing. He got me.
I can imagine the behind the scenes conversation after that.
Yeah, well,
because I've seen it.
Yeah, he knows.
How long are you going to coach? Because every year for the past 3 years, it seems like these retirement rumors, no clue, honestly, where they come from. We see you in State Farm commercials. We hear you got another one coming out. Like you just seem, in my opinion, knowing who you are at the depth of you, you seem like you're not slowing down yet. And you just signed a 4 or 5 year contract extension, very well deserved. Everyone gets these contract extensions, and as soon as you win these Super Bowls, you're going to keep getting them. How long do you want to coach?
Yeah, I don't know. I remember when my parents retired, I said, how'd you know it was time to retire? I mean, you hit 65 and then you retire. I mean, what is it? And they say, you'll just know, you'll know when it's time to go. And
have you been close? Have you been like, what, this is it?
Yeah, I really haven't thought about it. I mean, I enjoy doing what I'm doing. I know I'm on the bottom side of this thing and not on the top side of it. So it's coming, but I don't know when it is. And this is a great place to coach, and I've got good players, and so I'll be 71 at the end of this contract, and that seems like really old, really old, and so we'll see where it all goes.
Coach,
Yeah.
thank you so much.
Yeah.
So Chase and I are starting our new podcast called Scoop City. We're doing this together twice a week.
Oh, nice.
We're to give Travis and Jason a run.
Yeah.
We're
Good.
competitive,
Yeah,
so
good.
we think we can knock them off. I'm sure we
Yeah.
can. Someone here's got to date a movie star or some celebrity to help our numbers.
Yeah.
But so we really appreciate you.
Yeah.
You're our first guest.
Oh,
so
how about that? Yeah,
thank you
good.
so much.
Yeah, you
and
bet.
we really appreciate it.
We do want to ask you one thing
Oh.
on your Tommy Bahama shirts. So tell us the scoop
Oh yeah, what's the scoop?
on these Tommy Bahama shirts, because I see you at the owners. I think the best picture all year is you at the owners meeting, relaxed, flip flops, Tommy Bahamas. What's the scoop on that?
Yeah, it's the ultimate big guy wear. So who would ever thought it would have been a model for Tommy Bahama, but or for anything for that matter. But there's nothing more comfortable.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you.
Okay.
And I don't have a deal with
Yeah,
them or
yeah,
anything
yeah.
else. I mean, I've got every one of their shirts, and they're so comfortable.
I bet they go well with the cheeseburger.
You can spill on them,
Oh.
and you never see it.
Oh,
You never see it. It just
That's actually
just
the
blends right in. It just blends right in.
all
Yeah.
stylish.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome. Thank
Awesome.
you, Coach.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Coach.
you bet.
Appreciate it.
Welcome back to Scoop City. So, with the NFL season just about to get going here, there are these topics that just become viral, right? People just weigh in on different things, and it blows up. And sometimes you need people like Chase Daniel to stir it all up. And fortunately, my co-host did just that the other day. Joe Burrow was on Part of My Take, and he was talking all about the potential 18-game season that essentially that's probably what's going to happen, right? So he shared about how he would be in favor of it as long as they had 2 buys built in. And then I heard George Kittle go on Rich Eisen. He also agreed with Joe Burrow's take on it as a player. Chase, you do not agree with it at all. And by the way, Joe Burrow did this on a very popular podcast. I get it. But you made it a thing and you made it interesting because you disagree with Joe Burrow. What do you know?
Well, I don't disagree per se with what Joe Burrow said and what an 18-game season could look like. I mean, first of all, everything has to be collectively bargained with the players' union. So if you want to talk about the owners have always had leverage over the players, it's complete bullcrap. Because look, at the end of the day, the players have to agree with this. And I love how the NFL is planting the flag in the ground 5.5 years away from when it can even start to happen. My issue is not with Joe Burrow per se. It's with star players coming out and just saying, hey, yeah, you know what, we're okay with it. Not necessarily saying we're okay, but what it would look like and what it would feel like. And you talk to 99% of the players, and I know from being in multiple different locker rooms, I've been a part of 3 separate CBA negotiations as a voting rep. When I was a voting rep of the NFL Players Association for 10 years, I've been a part of an uncapped year. I've been a part of tons of conversations. Look, Dianna, I'm still really close with union employees, player reps, even the president. And I just got a text from a high up in the union that said the typical union stance is less work, not more. I'm not sure if the revenue from that will be enough to justify the cost to players' health and safety. That is the biggest thing for the union, even when I was a voting rep, is player health and safety. You're adding another game, and that's another chance for players to get injured.
Yeah, and I think that's the problem. It's just showing your hand in a negotiation. You know, the players union, they don't want players to give away anything, especially at this point. So I think Joe Burrow, and I think you agree, and even George Kittle, who weighed in on it, I think they just assume this is going to happen. A 17 game just happened, right? Like that just popped up. So they kind of know this is going to be their life, but if they could control it, that's kind of what they were trying to explain. Like, this is how we would want it to look. But
and a lot of people don't understand that everyone's like, oh, just let them go to 18 games. They'll make more money, yada, yada, yada. They will not make more money on their actual paycheck. Yes, the percentage of revenue toward the union will increase. That's going to be a given when this goes through. But say you're getting paid $17 million right now, and you're a top flight receiver. You're getting paid $17 million, and you get 17 paychecks in the year, although it's 36. Let's just use 17 for easy math, because that's what it used to be. You're getting $1 million a week during the season. First of all, you only get paid during the season until this came up. Now it's like 36 weeks. But if you go to 18 games, you're getting 18 paychecks. You're not getting an extra $1 million paycheck. Each paycheck goes from $1 million to $944,444. So it's the total pay is still the same, Dianna. People don't recognize that. And I tweeted that, and people were like, whoa, really? Like, you're not just automatically getting more pay. Now, the star players, they might get more, and the cap keeps increasing. So you see these quarterback contracts Dak's probably going to get 60 here in, this next year. It's just people don't understand, and they don't know what they don't know. I just want to have people to understand that it's not all about the money for these players. 99% of the players would not want an 18th game.
When you're a subject line on Pardon the Interruption and Tony Kornheiser is calling you out, Tim, I mean, I'm just entertained.
I find it sort of amusing that Chase Daniel, who was a backup quarterback for 13 seasons, started 5 games in his career, is taking on Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow in his first 6 weeks at Cincinnati started more games than Chase Daniel did in his whole career. Although I admire Frank beefing up like this.
The fact that you just shared your opinion and it became one of the bigger stories headed into camp just goes to show you why you got to tune into Skip City every week, because now you have an outlet to go there besides just Twitter here. So, all right, that'll do it for our first episode. How do you feel? It's our first episode.
Feel great.
Feel good?
I feel like we crushed it. As long as the mics are working and the video is working, we're good.
And you always have to check in on that for me, because God knows
I am not very technologically advanced, intelligent, smart, all that stuff. Thank you so much, guys, for giving us a chance. If you made it all the way to this part of the show, I love you. Thank you. You are you are a resident of Scoop City now. So thank you. Subscribe, leave a rating, leave a comment. We'll take all of it. Every Tuesday and Friday, you will get a fresh new episode of Scoop City starting this week. So thanks so much for joining us. And make sure you subscribe to our Scoop City newsletter. If you're really busy and you don't have all the time to listen to us, you can subscribe to our newsletter where our Jacob Robinson and I are putting together everything you need to know about the NFL.
See you later. Tag me next time.
Bye, guys. Thanks for tuning into Scoop City. If you want to hear more, make sure you like and subscribe. We drop our new episodes every Tuesday and Friday.